Well, hello, everybody. It is a very cold day today in New Zealand. It's snowed all night. It's all snowy outside. So I've on my cozy dream cloak jacket. Um, it is so cozy. I think people think I'm strange when I'm walking around, but then they see how cozy it is, and I think they might get a little jealous. I notice everyone in New Zealand just wear all black. It's just kind of nothing. I love it here, but there's kind of like this all black uniform. People just wear black on black. I'm like, hey, let's have a little color, gang. Let's spice it up. Anyway, I am here to talk about this is part two of my ayahuasca journey when I did 4 nights in a row in Costa Rica. I talked quite a bit about ayahuasca and other experiences in my new book, and I kind of want to continue to expound on that. You know, the book starts out with me in Scotland, and I automatically say these 24 magical words. I collapse on the bed, and then I go up into the spirit world for a while. I go to the other side. And a lot of reasons I talk about these other medicine or drug experiences is just to, demarcate the difference. Like, I know the difference. Like, what happened there was by far the most transcendent moment of my life, and nothing like any of these drug experiences. Even though the ayahuasca experiences I've had 7, they've also been incredible also, but they really don't hold a candle to what happened in Scotland. So, night number 3, this is called a ladies' night, and this is when they have all lady shamans up there, which is nice. It gives it a different vibe. It has a much more feminine energy. It's a little softer. It's a little more chill. And the medicine this night was pretty strong. I had a pretty rough night through it, but I still had lots of learnings, lots of breakthroughs. And this, of course, was the night of my alien surgery. Nobody expects the alien inquisition. And of course, I was still constipated as hell. I didn't know what was going on. I was quite worried too, because the next day I was going to get like a cleanse. Everyone gets like 2 cleanses, in the door of no return that week. And I was really worried because I was like, it's going to be a battle of wills in there. It's going to be like that movie 300 with the Spartans at Thermopylae. Is that how you say it? I was really quite worried. I was going to don't know what's going to happen in there. And I felt so bad for the woman, Maria, that worked in there. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Do you have other options? Do you have some tools, like some forceps, or I don't know. Should we get an OBGYN on this situation? I think I need a specialist. I spent a lot more time in the bathroom, but we'll get to that. It's really funny because when you're all there, you're all talking about this stuff quite openly because everyone's having like all kinds of weird, disgusting stuff going on. And of course, everyone is vomiting all night long. And, you really feel close to somebody when you just hear them vomiting their guts out all night long. And you start to recognize different vomits from your friends, like it's like identifying birds in a tropical rainforest. Just so many wonderful people there. So, and then like I realized that I am happiest when things are going into and out of my body, but there wasn't much coming out of my body except for my mouth hole. Oh, let me mention one more bathroom story. Bathroom confessions with Trey. This was a good thing that happened. Finally, I have a positive bathroom experience. So I was just sitting there, doing another little Pilates class, and my hands were like on my knees, and then just automatically I started bending my fingers forward. I was like, receive, 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 receive. And I don't know where that came from. Like sometimes I think we learn to remember things that we knew from previous lives. And then like I just kept doing that sort of automatically. I go, this is weird. And then like I was thinking in my head like, there's always that self-doubt. You're not worthy of love or whatever. Of course I know I am. And there's always that self-doubt. I was like, oh, no, you don't deserve to receive, Trey. Just keep giving. And then like this wave hit me, like this emotional wave. And I actually like fell on the ground of the bathroom, and I was like weeping. And I got this big message from my soul council and my soul guides. They're like, yes, Trey, you do deserve to receive. And now is the time to receive. Like, you've given enough. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And that's been happening to me like a lot, actually, ever since my event in Scotland a year ago. I start to have these little breakthroughs or these ideas. And many times I just get struck to the ground and I just start weeping openly, like snotting all over the ground. It's wild. And it's like this direct, like, blast of information from God. And it's just like so clear when that happens. It's not, it happens even when I'm walking around totally sober. Yeah, of course I was on the medicine there, so it's like, oh, that just sounds like some weird drug experience. But like, I could be walking through the fields here in New Zealand and thinking about something, and then I have some realization, and then I just fall to the ground and start weeping. Isn't that weird? And I have other ways of communicating with my soul guides through yawning and different things that happen. Maybe I'll make another video about that. It's quite fascinating, this level of communication I'm having. Sometimes I get electrical shocks in different patterns up and down my back through my fascia. Different shapes mean different things. So it's a wild scene. But anyway, I went out and I sat on the grass, and most people stay in on their mattresses all night, which I think is probably a good thing. They don't want you to wander around too much because you shouldn't distract yourself. You should sit there with the medicine and do your internal work, because so much of the work is healing internal trauma, and sometimes the trauma that you're healing isn't even your own. Sometimes it's stuff you inherit from your ancestors, because stuff gets passed down. I don't know if you know about the rat and the lemon experiment. I'll get back to when I sat cross-legged and did my receive thing out in the grass in a moment. But this talks about ancestral pain being handed down. They did this rat lemon experiment where there's this daddy rat, okay, and it already had some baby rats, right? And they were put in cages in different rooms. And then they took the daddy rat and they squoze a lemon in his nose, which doesn't really happen much, and then they immediately electrocuted the daddy rat, right? Which isn't a nice thing, but So then his babies grew up and had babies, and those babies grew up and had babies. So now these are like great-grandbaby rats, right? And they would go squeeze a lemon in front of like normal rats and nothing would happen. But these rats, they would squeeze the lemon in and they would jump back against the cage in fear. So this is stuff that's carried down through epigenetics and other mysterious things people don't really understand. So you can assume that all of us have had fairly terrible things happen to our ancestors, and it gets passed through to us. So a lot of times our pain and suffering isn't even our own. It's stuff that we inherit from previous lives and things like that. And that's so much of what the book is about too. Not just what happens after you die and before you decide to come back down here. Remember, we all decided to come back down here. This is our choice, believe it or not. And it also talks, quite a bit about past lives and how things that happened in previous lives can actually affect this one. So like weird behaviors or other unusual things are often carryovers from previous lives. There's a really interesting thing I'll link to. I got to find it again. But this guy does past life regressions, and most physical ailments do come from previous lives. This guy had migraine problems, and he was just this 13-year-old kid, and he was missing a lot of school and didn't know why. And they did past life regressions, and they found like eight past lives where he died from like severe head injuries. And they talk like extreme detail, like, oh, it's like, the 1840s, and I was out, and like someone came behind me with a spade and hit me in the head, and like he described 4 or 5 of these really violent head injuries. And after they went through these, his migraines just went away. And I have read thousands of case studies about this kind of stuff, and I find it quite fascinating. Anyway, do your own research. I still recommend all the Dolores Cannon books. They are wonderful. In fact, I'm rereading the Convoluted Universe series right now. They're just great. Dolores, you're a goddess if you're watching from above. I'm sure she is. She's Dolores Cannon. Okay, so back to the ceremony. I'm sitting out on the grass, Indian style, Native American style, and I put my hands on my knees like this, and then I just go receive, 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 receive. And then almost immediately, I start like this wild yawn, like up at the moon that just happened to be there. It was like I was in control. And like I just couldn't stop yawning. And I was like this boa constrictor. And it was a yawn kind of like with this smile, like both things. And it was just like extended. And I thought like, man, am I going to get lockjaw? What's happening? A lot of times in ceremony, a lot of people did yawn, and that it can be a form of purging. But in this, I was receiving information. I don't know if I was receiving information from the moon or what was happening, but it was real. Like I wasn't even in control, but it was really cool. I don't consciously know what I received. I think it goes into my subconscious or something that will be activated later, which was very unusual. Later during the ceremony, I went around where they have this table with some candles and some crystals, and I was looking at the crystals, and then I just started to automatically like yawn at them. Like for 3 or 4 minutes, I just had my mouth open, just yawning, and I couldn't stop. I was like, what is happening? Am I like learning things from these crystals? Am I remembering how to use them? And this comes from a guy who was pretty much a lifetime atheist and thought crystals were dumb, right? They were just something that limp-wristed hippies used, women with anxiety problems were told they should put some, amethyst dildo up their vajayjay and it will make everything better. I was like, yeah, these gals will fall for anything. But I guess that does have side benefits as well. Anyway, I still don't really understand what crystals are about, but I'm very interested in them. And I used to have a double major in geophysics, so I've always been into crystals and rocks in a way. So that'll be interesting to learn more about that. Although I don't really want to take any online classes or anything because I still think there's a lot of charlatans out there. I'm still a skeptic. I think maybe just like photography, I kind of figure stuff out on my own, so maybe I'll figure it out on my own. I don't know. Who knows? So here comes the alien part. Okay, I'm laying there on my mattress. I think this night I had 3 or 4 glasses or cups of ayahuasca. So I didn't have nearly as much as the first night when I had 7. And sometimes I felt kind of sick, but mostly I felt okay. I had a lot of pintas, and a pinta is a word for a vision. Lots of cool geometry I saw. There's information in that geometry that you don't really consciously understand, but I think subconsciously it makes sense. Plus sometimes it's just pretty and it's soothing and it just shows you, wow, what is this coming from? Like, is my brain creating this? Because I feel like a pretty creative dude, but I was like, the things I'm seeing, like, I don't think I could create this in a million years. Am I looking at the actual tapestry of consciousness that we're all actually, surfing in? They say fish can't see the water in which they swim, and maybe we don't see the energy in which we swim. I'm pretty sure that's true. But as I'm having these visions, suddenly an alien comes in, right, to my visions, and it's this really cool looking alien. It's quite angular and silvery and almost metallic. It's got an impossible number of angles. It's like this hyperdimensional, super intelligent alien. I just get this sense that this thing is brilliant, and it's all silvery and black and gray with cool angles, and it almost looks like it's part of an alien ship too. Like it's part alien and is also part of his own ship, and he's got these glowing red eyes, and it doesn't have a scary Terminator feel, but there's something about it that feels like it's okay, and I don't find it scary at all. And it starts moving around and kind of dancing and dazzling me. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I've never had any vision like this on anything. And so it started to like dazzle me and like glamour me and kind of like hypnotize me in a way. And then I was like, okay, aliens, do your worst. I didn't know they were going to do surgery on me. And now I've had a few alien surgeries, even one here in New Zealand. That's a different story. Whoa, is that a different story? Maybe I'll tell that one too if you want me to. So, the first thing it did is I kind of like it rolled me over on my left side. I kind of like automatically did that. So I kind of, okay, I guess I'm on my left side now. And then it started doing stuff in my mouth. Like it started like rolling my tongue around in my mouth, around all my teeth. Like it was doing stuff in there. I don't know. My mouth is perfectly healthy. I've never even had a cavity my whole life, if you can believe it. So I don't know what it was doing in there. And it was really weird, like the way it would move my tongue around and my lips, and like it was all over the show. I mean, it was like Gene Simmons times a million in there. And then later I asked in the class the next day, what was that about? I go, oh, that's somewhat common. It has to do with like childhood stuff, like all the stuff that you wanted to say or you weren't allowed to say or were afraid to say. And a lot of that stuff can come back as in the throat chakra, or if different kinds of diseases can actually come around if you hold back what you really want to say. And then they went into my eyes, and I was like, yes, maybe they'll fix my eyes, right? Because I'm totally blackout blind in my right eye. I was like, finally, some aliens. And I could see them shining lights in my eyes, like when someone gets a concussion and they shine a light in your eye. They were doing that, and there were multiple colored lights going in each eye. I'm not sure what that was about. They didn't fix my eye, by the way. I was like, aliens, come on, fix my eye, right? And then they were like, no, we're going to do something else to you. I was like, all right, you guys are the experts. And then they went into my skull on my left side, just totally on my left side, and like underneath the skull and between the brain and the skull, I could feel this electric buzzing like washing back and forth, and I could hear it. And these little prickly things under here for like a minute, and it felt so cool. I was like, what are you guys doing? I still have no idea what they did. And then, I don't know, the whole thing went on 4 or 5 minutes. They're pretty efficient. I called them Intergalactic Surgical Strike Team. Thought about making a little TV show in AI about these aliens that go around and perform surgery. Give them different characters and some flaws and have some like a little romance in the team. Anyway, I don't know why I think about these things. Afterwards, I had a little bit of a headache, which would happen after alien brain surgery. And I went up and I got a blessing from them. You can go up and ask for a little blessing or whatever. And they put all these medicines on you, and then they chant and put these fans on you, and they say things with all these crazy words and stuff. And then sometimes they get someone with all this like lotion, and they like lotion up your body, and like I had my shirt off and everything. And then afterwards I felt great. I was like, wow, I don't know what the hell they just did, but it worked. Yeah, so those are kind of the highlights of night 3. And it's always nice to compare notes with everyone afterwards. Oh yeah, towards the end of the night, I was out in the grass walking around, and kind of like there were so many frogs out this night because it had rained, and I kind of like got down. I said hi to the frogs. I got like frog position. I was like, frogs, I love you. I don't think I've ever said how much I appreciate you. It seems like there's a plague out here. I said, that's like bad marketing from the Bible. I call you guys a plague. That's not cool. I was like, then I thought, it would be nice to like use ChatGPT to rewrite the Bible and take out all the nonsense. Wouldn't that be cool? These are the things I thought about out there. Then after it ended, I went out and I sat in the hammock, and my friend Jim came out and he laid in the hammock with me, and we talked, and such a sweet guy. And we figured that like, oh man, I think all of us must have planned to come here together. You all planned to find each other in this life and things like that. And there's a lot about that in my book. And then he taught me like how to astral project, because he can astral project all the time. And I astral project a lot, but I'm not in control of someone else astral projection. I'm kind of on rails. So I've been working on that, but I haven't been able to do it yet. Anyway, that was night number 3. Now, night number 4 was Yahe night. This night, I actually slept quite a bit, which was nice. And I had really wild dreams. And, it doesn't matter if you're awake and meditating or asleep. The medicine is still working on you. In fact, it works on you for weeks and weeks afterwards. There's a lot of integration, and it's a very interesting kind of medicine like that, because you often have a lot of breakthroughs and realizations weeks or even months after your ayahuasca ceremony. And so after I had the medicine, I noticed myself doing something very strange when I would have the medicine too, because it was so hard to get down sometimes. It's just so disgusting, and you're thinking about all the previous times you vomited and stuff. Like after I would drink it, I would like snap 3 times and it hit my crown chakra, and 3 times I would just like automatically do these things with my hands. Like I don't know what was going on. And I noticed myself doing a lot of strange things with my hands lately, just involuntarily when I'm talking. Not sure what's going on with that, but I do notice it. I would always do that snap, 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 1, 2, 3, snap, snap. It's almost like an OCD thing, but it was like I wasn't doing it on purpose. I think if you're OCD and you go turn on and off the lights 3 times, you're doing it volitionally, with volition. I wasn't. But anyway, I went back to my mattress. I fell asleep. Weird dreams, and then I woke up, and then I was like, have people already had their second cup? And I felt like totally sober. And by the way, there's no enjoyment when you talk about drinking and sobriety. You think about alcohol. This has none of that stuff, because maybe your first drink or 2 of wine or whatever is nice and pleasant. You get a little, you feel a little lightheaded, a little cruisy, whatever. This has none of that quality. You're just like not feeling good right away. So I woke up and I felt like super sober. So I went over and talked to my buddy Diego, who's helping out with the shaman there. And I said, have people had their second cup? He's like, yeah, you go up there. I was like, okay. So I went up there and had my second cup, and then went back to my bed and just kind of sat there and meditated, and asked for like consults to talk to people, and had really many nice breakthroughs and deep meditations and thinking about my life and relationships and everything. And also, this is my first like serious expedition, if you can't really call this a psychedelic, since my event in Scotland, right? And if you've read the book, that after my event in Scotland, about 2 weeks after that, I ended up in like 2 mental hospitals, right? And solitary confinement, and man, it was a rough ride. So I had a lot of people in my life saying, Trey, don't go to ayahuasca, you're gonna go crazy again. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. By the way, I don't call it going crazy. It's what Stanislav Grof calls a spiritual emergence. It's actually quite common, and many things can bring it on. But I totally trusted the mother and ayahuasca and the medicine, and I knew it would take care of me. And people in the know that know about ayahuasca said, like, you'll be fine. And I was fine. But this was my first major foray into trying some mind-expanding molecule since that event. So I wasn't scared, but I was like a little bit like, well, let's see what happens. I was still trying to be objective about it and look at myself from the outside, and really be introspective about these things. And of course it was all fine. Anyway, so I went to go get my second cup of medicine, came back and meditated, and then it was time for the big blessing. All right, this is the big night where everyone gets like a serious blessing. And the way it was set up, okay, so I went over, I was a little late, I guess, and they had this row of, there were 35 people there, right? So they had this row of about, 18 pillows, right? And then the front row was like these 18 little stools, right, or whatever the number is for 35. And so I was in the back row, and the team of shamans, this Colombian cat and his other shamans, other we worked with all week, they would form a group of like 3 people, and they would start on the right, and then they would move through everybody, right? And they would spend like collectively 15 minutes on each person, right? So it's almost like an assembly line. The first guy comes through, gives you some kind of a blessing and talks to you and dazzles you and puts some medicines on you, kind of prepares you. And then like the big shaman comes, this Colombian guy, and he's got like all these feathers, and it felt like he was like Shiva with 8 arms, and like he's chanting and saying all this stuff to you, and like it's in multiple languages, and it's looking at you, and like his face is changing, and you're like, what is this guy even saying? You really get the sense that these cats are like channeling. It's like ancient Aramaic or some old language. It's dead now, but it's obviously just flying out of them. And I'm listening to them. They're saying different things to different people. There's a few things they repeat, but they really customize it. So my eyes are closed when I'm not watching his face change, and he's like rubbing these feathers all around me. I'm like, how's he doing this? And like there's medicine flying on me. So that lasts a while, and it's really intense. And then the third guy comes along, and he cracks some ostrich egg on your head, or I don't know what it was, but it starts dripping down me. I was like, whoa. And then like they rub it all over your face, and they're chanting at you again. I was like, well, this is so wild. And like you really feel like blessed, and then you go back, you integrate it. And I don't know if it's psychosomatic or what. I don't think it was, because like that really did something to my vibe, and it was wonderful. But let me tell you what happened right before that. So I was on the back row, okay, sitting on the pillows, kind of waiting, and it was going so slow. I was like, oh no, it's gonna take forever. And I'm kind of, the medicine is working on me, and I'm trying to sit still. And these 2 dudes on my right and left, God bless them, these are my friends. But they can hear the chant coming, and they are like rolling around, and they are sweaty, and they're vomiting in their buckets, and I'm getting splash damage on both sides. And I'm just trying to stay calm. I'm just like, my upper body, I'm doing like a happy snake dance. Like, Trey, you're a happy snake, you're a happy snake. And they're like all sweaty, and they're like, arms are flying on me, and like, I'm getting the impression, like, because there's almost like this wave of like godly healing coming along, and it's this powerful wave, and it's like they've got like these demons inside of them that they don't want to get out, and like they're just kind of like these possessed. I'm like, am I in an all-male insane asylum? Like, how did I? And it was like really rough. And so I thought about like pulling up my little Google assistant, and saying like, hey, make an appointment for arrhythmia in 50 years. Like, why did I sign up for this thing? No, I'm just kidding. I'd totally go back. But I was like, oh my gosh, I just kind of want to go back to my mattress. And I was sitting there patiently, and I felt sorry for them, and I was just trying to send them love, like love, 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 love. I wasn't getting annoyed. I'm pretty good at going the whole day without being bothered by anything. I learned this trick. It's not really a trick. It's just it's a practice from Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul, one of my favorite books. And he says, notice how many times you get bothered by things every day, right? It doesn't matter if it's a big thing or a small thing, but just notice if it bothers you. Because anything that bothers you is something on the outside that comes in, it gets stuck on some kind of egoic construct, or some story construct, or some story you've been telling yourself. And when something comes in and conflicts with your story, it bothers you. And then just to notice that, you think like, oh, maybe this story that this thing got stuck on isn't actually true. And I'm able actually to go almost every day with nothing bothering me at all. Every now and then things do crop up, but it's pretty good. So I was sitting there, and even though I'm talking in a weird way about it, it really didn't bother me. I was really sending them love, and I was like, this is part of the experience, and it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. I'll be fine having a few sweaty dudes' limbs flying all over me, and a little extra vomit hitting me from both sides. It's all right. I'll be fine. um, anyway, so that finally it was my turn up there, or I got up on the stools and I was kind of in the middle, and the shamans were coming across, right? They're coming in, and I'm actually feeling pretty good, you know. Um, I feel I'm not ecstatic or anything, but I'm feeling kind of elevated. I'm feeling peaceful. I'm listening to the music, like everything's all right. But then as they get two or three from me, I get this wave come over me of just like extreme fatigue. I was like, what is that? And like I could just barely sit there anymore. It wasn't like I was trying to get away from it. I was ready for it to come. I was like, I don't know if I can make it. And it came over me so suddenly, and it's always like I was always asking for help. Like, can you like give me a little mini blessing just to tide me over till these cats get over here? And then I was like, no, man. And I hadn't vomited all night, which was strange. Not that I thought like, oh, I'm cured. I'm pure and clean as wind-driven snow now. No, I wasn't thinking that at all. But I was like, well, maybe I do have something in there I gotta get rid of. So I kind of like, I mean, I could barely move, and I went kind of on the floor. I kind of went behind me. I crawled over to my bucket, which was nearby. You always have your bucket nearby. And then I just started to do this dragon fire black vomit, and all these like black oily cephalopods just like squirted out of me, like all these parasites. Like, where did I pick up these parasites? Am I just like too open and I pick up like parasites and dark energy or something that's all stored in there? And man, it was like rough, and I was like I was like screaming as it came out. I was like, my God, what was that? It was one of the most violent ones of the week, which is saying a lot because I had a lot of violent vomits prior to that. I was like purge central. And then anyway, after that, it just took me a minute to recover. I was like, okay, let me just breathe here for a minute. And then I felt pretty good. And then I went back and I sat back on the stool, and finally I was kind of back to normal. I was like, thank God I did that. And so later I asked the shaman, I was like, what was that? I was feeling really good, and then this way, and then it's like a bow wave, like at the front of a boat. Like as these people on my right are getting healed, like all of their pain and their suffering and all the stuff that's coming out of them, I'm catching on to, especially because I'm so sensitive to that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of like catching on to their stuff, and I'm absorbing it. I'm like, oh man. So that made a little sense of that, I suppose. So after that harrowing blessing, a blessing or a curse, I went back and I sat on my mattress, and I started thinking about intentions, because you go into it with intentions. Then I made this little joke to myself. They say the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Not that the whole night was hell, just it had hell-like qualities. Oh, also, by the way, hell doesn't exist, which is the good news. If you watch my videos, what happens after you die and before you choose to come back, I talk more about that. It's just all love up there, love and happiness, no judgment at all. They just love you. So I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and I could see the light was coming up a little bit. I was like, oh, let's go outside, because there were people outside. So I took a little blankie, and I went out there, and I sat cross-legged and watched the sun come up. And I was hearing a lot of my friends laughing, because you can talk now, right now that you're not supposed to talk at all during the ceremony, but everyone's talking and laughing, and they just sound like a bunch of loco hyenas. And man, because we all just went through this war together, and we're just like laughing because it's just it was just like, it was fun. We were like children. All of us had these, this childlike openness again, which you should always have. And I've always, those of you that follow me know that I've always kind of embraced my childlike nature. I think that's the way all of us should be. The kids are the best. Grown-ups are so sterile, but it's just nice to hear everyone laughing. And then I did a little meditation, a little stretching, and then I went over and joined everyone, and we laughed and told stories, gave each other hugs, and yeah, it was really, really sweet. Um, yeah, it was a really great final event. And then, of course, we're all starving by then because we went into it starving, and then we emptied stuff out that we didn't even know we had inside of us. So now we're like double starving. So we all go and we have this giant breakfast, and we're laughing and telling stories and hugging, and it was great to hear. You're not supposed to talk about what other people went through, which I think is a pretty good rule, or it's a great rule. But man, I heard some amazing stories from my new friends down there, and the level of breakthroughs that they had was incredible, especially a lot of the doubting Thomases, the ones that thought like it's not going to work for me, or what's up with all these hippies. We got a few like conservative red state people, nothing wrong with that, but you know what I mean. They're not really sure if they believe in it, maybe never hung around like this kind of hippie vibe or whatever. Or they've been preconditioned their whole life that this is wrong, or it's some sort of occult activity, or there's so much religious dogma that fucks up people's brains. But to watch them turn around and to have this awakening and to be so happy and alive, and they're calling their family, and they're all going to be like, oh man, when I go back, they're going to notice a difference. And like, I used to have so much pent up anger or anxiety, or just worrying about stuff that doesn't even matter. And yeah, it's amazing to see a group of like 35 people just be transformed over 4 days. And yeah, we all vibed off each other. We have this WhatsApp group going, and we all encourage each other, and it's really great. So anyway, I recommend it, certainly. It is not a peer pressure kind of thing at all. Really, it's a calling. It, like, the mother calls you to her whenever you're ready for it. Because I had heard about it for like 6 years, 7 years before I even tried it, and I could have gone to try it any time. And I'm the kind of person that'll go try pretty much anything once, especially if it sounds like it's kind of cool. But I was like, nah, the time's not right. But then finally the time was right. Yeah. Okay, well, that's the end of my story. Hope you guys come join my reading nook. I've got all kinds of other great book recommendations and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the story. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Ciao, Bella.